Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This being a show where we talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Reginald the Vampire. Another great episode. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Well, first and foremost, picking up where last episode left off, Reginald saved Maurice, but it's like, okay, but Maurice doesn't believe him when he's like, whoa, how'd you save me? It's like, well, I compelled Eric. It's like, no, you didn't do it. It's like, yeah, I did it. He's like, no, that's impossible. Literally, that's never happened in all recorded history of vampirism. And then it's like Eric's there fixing him stuff. He's like, wait, you told him to fix you breakfast? Like, yeah, I love breakfast. And then all of a sudden, Mike comes out of nowhere. Was it Mike or was it Mark? I kept thinking the entire episode was Mark. Maybe it is Mark. I don't remember. But it's like the other dude came out. I was like, wait, how did... He's like, oh, I thought you were dead. Oh, I thought you were dead. I'm like, how the hell is he not dead? She was literally in the process of killing Maurice, and I thought she made it like, oh, that guy died or whatever. Like, I thought that was kind of the whole point. And he popping up, I was like, I was immediately suspicious of him the entire episode. We'll go ahead and jump to it, but like we find out he was working for Angela. Because I was like, dude, either someone shape-shifted into him or he's being controlled. But it's like, well, he can't be controlled because... Reginald's the only one with the ability to compel the glamour of the vampire. So I was like, what is going on there? So I'm assuming this was a long-standing situation. It wasn't just like, oh, now you're going to keep an eye on. I guess he was always tasked with keeping an eye on Maurice, and he kind of sells Reginald out near the end of the episode. But it's like, oh, that sucks. Because he was like your confidant, so that's why Angela knew what to do. She knew you were coming after her because of him. That's probably how she knew that's how she probably found out about the angel blood and everything. Probably because in his mind, that was the only way he could keep Maurice okay, because he loves legitimately care about Maurice, but he's definitely got his own circumstances, because she's like, right, you wouldn't have come to me for what you came to me for if it wasn't like, so it's like, we still don't know what it was that, he came to, Angela for, but luckily they were able to get away. And I guess that's why she was just so like, all right, well, there's three of you, well, technically two of you, Reggie and Maurice, and your boy is still on my side, but it's like, right, I got to keep my ace in the hole still hidden, so I'm not going to chase after you, like, while you, especially when you had the advantage. Because I forgot to talk about the angel blood last episode. I'm wondering, is that like a massive, like, instant death for a vampire? I mean, it was like there's other easier ways probably to kill them, but maybe angel blood is a surefire way, or maybe it's very much like, maybe it's almost kind of similar to like the white oak from the originals, or maybe it's even straight up a vampiric cure. So who knows? I'm curious where the angel blood comes into that play, but I guess it's like, right, if you can get probably like even a small drop of angel blood in a vampire, and like it could just be an instant like, oh, they wither and die type of thing. Who knows? But it's something that the moment Angela found out, like, oh, that's what you went to get, angel blood? Are you serious? Like, it upset her the most. That, so I wouldn't even think a cure, but I would almost think like a cure. Turning a vampire like Angela into a human probably would upset her the most, but it could simply be like, no, it is just a surefire death. You don't have to get close in. Just even the smallest exposure to it could be a vampire's undoing in whatever capacity, whether it's death or a cure. So. But Maurice is telling Reginald not to tell anyone about his power, because it's like, right, it's a dangerous ability, because the last thing they want is like, wait, there's a vampire out there who can control other vampires. They have a hierarchy in this whole thing for a reason, and you kind of a lowly stationed vampire, because you're kind of such an outsider to the vampiric like order, because they had the idea of what they want it to be. They want it to be lean and perfect, and you do not fit that narrative. So it's like, right, you could jeopardize the entire infrastructure of the vampiric world, being able to stop any vampire. Even the oldest and strongest vampires will still like submit to your will because of that. So Maurice is like, if you don't do this, like, the vampire, they will find you and they will kill you and everyone you care about. I mean, Angela in particular, it's not just her. Because we do find out, like, she's not the head honcho, but she is, like, at least on, I guess, like, the head of the council of this particular area. So it's, like, a regional-based name. But, because they reference someone who I think is, like, because Reginald's like, oh, who's that? And he's like, don't worry about it, never mind. So I'm like, I guess that person might be the head honcho. Well, then the character's named Logan or something like that. So they might be the head honcho of the vampires. I don't know, or, you know, we'll have to wait and see. I almost kind of expect maybe not even a head honcho, but they might be so old that they're kind of seated in that ancient territory, kind of like Godric from True Blood type of status or something. Because I don't think he was like special, like he was regarded in certain regards, but I don't remember what Godric's position in like amongst the vampiric like hierarchy and stuff. Like I don't know what role he actually played. I remember he was like Eric's maker, and he was like 2,000 years old. But that's like all I haven't watched True Blood in forever. So, and speaking, because I brought it up earlier, the Angel Blood, I was like, because it made me think of like the Cure and the Vampire Diaries and stuff. I was like, where did the Cure come from? Was it Silas's blood? I just don't remember. Obviously, it came up in like the originals and stuff, so like it was still a through line throughout the rest of the other shows. But I was like, I just don't remember where the Cure originated. I know there was just very little of it left, but I want to say like maybe it came from Silas's blood, maybe not. I don't like. Once again, I don't remember. That's probably super not the case, but either way, that's kind of beside the point. Focusing back on Reginald the Vampire. So I do love the whole thing with Eric, which I thought it was actually sweet, like Reginald kind of opening up to him. He's like, oh, you're kind of a, manservant to him and everything, and like brought him like the breakfast he asked for. He's like, oh no, man, this is delicious. And he eventually had to let Eric go. He was like, hey, go as far away from here, live the life like a happy life as best as possible. You're no longer my manservant or something else, or my best friend. I was like, oh, Reginald. I was like, that was actually really sweet. And he was like, before he left, he was like, this is actually going to be a gift, and gave him, I guess like, I guess that's their stakes in this, are like just combs, like probably like wood combs or something that have like a pointed tip to them. And it's like, yeah, this was supposed to be like a gift that I was going to wait for the right moment to give you. And I was like, oh, that's super sweet. Because it was nice for Reginald to be able to fully be open with someone about everything. Well, he does have Claire, and I think she's going to become like fill the role of kind of his bestie. It's like, right, you're my confidant, you're my friend, and she's super happy about the whole vampire thing. I thought that's where Ashley was going to go this episode, but it seems like Ashley's like no, I'm gonna hunt them down. Like, I guess she's more of a paranormal hunter rather than like, yeah, I'm all about the paranormal, because like Claire's like super happy about Reginald being a vampire stuff. Ashley's like, no, like she plans on killing vampires. So I don't know. Maybe that's her thing, because like she does seem to be the person who like believes in like conspiracy theories and stuff like that. Not necessarily just that, but like she's the one that's like, I want to bust down like all these like crazy things in the world. So it seems like I said, she's more of a paranormal hunter rather than like a paranormal lover, I guess, to some extent. So either way, since I am bringing up Ashley, the fact is that she's talking to Sarah, because Sarah admits, like, yeah, she's having certain gaps in her memory and she's not sure what it was. But then it's also like, right, she's lost her memory at the same time. Todd's acting weird, and it's like something's going up there. Like, why is he wearing the scarf? Ascot. It's like, what's going on? I never loved Reginald was like, oh, maybe it's just fashion. She's like, that's not fashion. But Ashley's like trying to help Sarah figure out like, okay, what could have gone wrong? Like, what could have affected her memory, and ended up like, because she noticed Todd acting weird. So she's like, all right, I'm going to look into Todd's stuff. And as she was going through, because they looked at the ride share, it's like, oh, this is where you went. It's an address that's unfamiliar to her. So Ashley looks into it, and I was like, she's going to come across stuff she was looking for Todd's stuff, but I was like, she's going to find Reginald's like work stuff and end up finding out his address, and totally ends up being a case. But Sarah's like, there's no way Reginald will never do anything to hurt me, which is very true. I mean, he's done everything he can to like keep his vampiric urges, like, that was the whole point of episode 2. Maurice is the one that actually sent her away just to help Reginald out, But obviously this episode kind of hints that there's like a deeper reason to that, but we'll get to that later. But either way, because Sarah actually ran into Reginald early in the episode, like he was pretending to jog by. I even love him using like the quick reading and stuff to be like, oh man, this is my favorite part of the book. She's like, actually, no, I haven't actually read it. Well, she's like, I got to read it again, because she read up to like page 75, but she's like, I don't remember reading that far, so she's rereading it, and it's like, oh, well, we can talk about it after you read it and everything. Haha, I was trying to make small talk with her, but it didn't go too well, and it's, Claire was there to kind of, like, give him moral support, like, but I guess the moment she saw they were talking, she kind of eventually left, but still. And she is, even though Maurice was like, don't tell anyone, he immediately, hard cut to him telling Claire about everything. She's like, oh my god, that's so cool. He's like, yeah, I know. I even love the thing with Todd where it's like, he's like, oh man, this ice cream's for me. He's like, yeah, I get a treat, you get a treat. He's like, oh man, he's like, I can't believe it. This is you, my bully. He's like, wait, I was your bully? Yeah. He's like, yeah, every day. Really? Why? He's like, doesn't matter, because he's like, this is, things have changed. And then he's tasting the ice cream. He's like, wait, because Todd gave him a spoon. He's like, yeah, here you go. He's like, wow, you do know me so well. He eats the ice cream and drinks his blood at the same time. He's like, oh, he's acting like it's the most orgasmic thing ever. I love that. I was legitimately scared. I'm like, please don't tell me you're going to, like, be careful that you don't end up draining Todd. But it's like, yeah. It'd be interesting if it turns out, because he's glamored Todd and stuff, that Todd inadvertently becomes his new bestie. Not only, well, that's a complicated thing of like, cool, you're my bestie, but you're also going to be my food source too, so that's going to be complicated. But Sarah went over to Reginald's place and it's like, oh, was I here before? He's like, no, of course not. He's like, why would you even come over here? He's like, if you came over, like, trust me, I would remember. She's like, of course. He's like, I wouldn't lie to you. She's like, I know you won't. It's like, sadly, he's lying to you, because it's like, right, can't let you know about like what happened. But she is starting to remember little by little. They do the whole song title and artist thing. It's like, Oasis or Clash. Like, they do their whole back and forth that I thought was really cute. And he asked her out on a date, and they do go on a date, and it is fun. But he gets distracted by, what was it, LeBron and the other vampire. They went to obviously LeBron as a name stood out to me, but they're there to keep an eye on him because of Angela. Because I've skipped over it. There's the whole assessment thing, which, to be fair, having a unique ability like, being able to glamour vampires would be super helpful. You just have to make sure you do that in secret or whatever. But it's like, no, you can't do that. He's got to rely on his other special gift, his brain. Because I also love Maurice's training of it, but he's like, right, as a vampire, like, your body's stuck in the state that it originally was in. So once again, you might be a little stronger, a little faster than what you were before, but at the end of the day, you'll never be able to be stronger than what you are. You'll never be able to put on muscle to be like, yeah, I'm stronger now, and now I'm able to, be even stronger. It's like, no, your body's stuck the way it is. So whatever form you were in when you got transformed, that's kind of basically what you're stuck at. So it's all more so for warm-up process. But I'm curious, like, what the assessment's a test, but we didn't really get into the nitty-gritty details about what it is exactly. But Maurice does believe that Reginald's brain could be his key to it. Because it's not even just Reginald's survival, because we find out, well, if Reginald fails, he dies, but it's not just him. The contract also says that if he dies, if he loses this and dies, so does Maurice. So it's like, wait, what? He's like, yeah, but I have faith in you. He's like, I appreciate your unplaced faith, but come on, dude. He's like, no, we got this. I'm like, so Reginald has no choice but to ace this assessment, which Angela's super like, nah, I'm going to kill you early. Because she wanted to kind of give, it was a twofer. It's like, cool, I get to make it a public thing. This way, like, I don't have to catch any grief for killing, like, because killing Reginald outside of this, it's like, yeah, I would have killed him, but now I get to use it as an opportunity to not only kill him, but also kill Maurice, and it'll be legal and bound, and, I won't have to kind of go around people's back to, like, kill Maurice again, because he's going to be much more on guard this time, because he's like, cool, we're trying to kill each other, but there's an agreement where now I can test you into the vampire world, which if he does ace it, the vampire world's probably going to be pretty upset with Angela for letting this happen, but either way. They went on, circling back, Reginald and Sarah are on their date. We kind of learn a little bit more about Sarah. Apparently, she comes from like a very religious background, and she actually ran away from home, and that's kind of why she is where she is right now. Because she's like, yeah, I was upraised to like worship archangels, and it's like, oh, he's like, is that kind of sounds like a cult? She's like, no, it's not like that. I'm like, if you really want to get to the nitty-gritty, I'm not saying that is the way to feel about it, but obviously a lot of cults have religious elements to them, and some people be like, oh, religion's the biggest cult of it all. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying people probably could say that and try and make an argument. I'm not telling you should feel that way. I just think that's kind of interesting that that's what Reginald came at it from that perspective. But I think I just took it as like when she said archangels, I was like, oh, you must have been like super religious. That's kind of how she put it. But Reginald saying a cult, I guess is like the way she talked about it almost seemed like a cult. Like I had to get out. So Reginald also talks about his family situation. I guess it's just like I don't know if there's more to it or not, because all he leaves it at is like, yeah, my family went to Hawaii. he's like, I want to be able to go, but, things have changed. Obviously, his current circumstances, not amendable to, like, just going to Hawaii whenever he wants to see his family. So I wonder if there are extenuating circumstances why they moved there and why he didn't move with. I mean, and you're living your own life, sure, but I'm like, I wonder what sparked that, if there's anything more to that Reginald hasn't talked about. It feels like it. But either way, the two vampires meant to keep an eye on him. He ended up trancing them, and he made them kind of put on this whole performance in front of everybody, getting all like makey outy and super sloppy. And then obviously it got so disgusting that Sarah had to look the other way because Reginald kept like make it to the point like they were stuffing their faces and vomit was involved, and it's just like, oh god. It's like, yeah, that's that problem when you like prank someone, you're going to right, because also Reginald is so used to being bullied that it's like, right, the moment you get a little bit of power, kind of goes through your head a little bit, and he took it a little too far. I mean, it's like, well, these people, one of them in particular helped kill you, so it's kind of like you got no remorse on that part, right? So it's like, screw them, they suck. But regardless of that, the date still went off without a hitch because Sarah really liked it. She's like, yeah, the vomit stuff was kind of bad. It was kind of gross, but, there's two people in this relationship, which even I was like, oh, did she say relationship? And Rachel's like, wait, you said relationship? She's like, yeah. And I'm like, oh, this is super cute. And then Ashley proceeds to spray them with the super soaker. And I was like, there's holy water in that, huh? Once again, this show breaking like vampire rules, because once again, the whole like having to be welcomed in thing apparently isn't a thing, and also holy water. Like I love even Richard, but wait, this is holy water. Even he was scared. He's like, right, he still doesn't know like how much is fact versus fiction when it comes to vampires. So it's like makes you want to like, because obviously like a super old vampire trope was onions. Like everything pulls away. Like I don't think there's anything that uses the onion trope anymore. Because that's such a very, very old school thing. I'm wondering what a cross work. Because I know some vampire stuff of like, yeah, like, God, what am I thinking of? I'm thinking of something vampire related where someone had like a cross in their hand and it was burning them, but they like kept it in their hand. I don't know if that was like Interview with the Vampire, the movie, or was that like something else? But I feel like that doesn't come up too often, the whole cross thing. Or I think it kind of gets brought up as a joke of like, boo, I'm scared of religion, and just knock it out someone's hand. I think that, so I feel like the cross and onions tend to be the ones that kind of get lambasted. I don't know if lambasted would even be the right word. They just don't, they get like, those are like such old tropes they don't use anymore. Obviously the go-to is steak, specifically to the heart. Decapitation works, and sunlight seem to be your go-to. Once again, I still need to look into it. The silver bullets thing always I always associate that with the werewolf thing, but I do think some vampire lore uses that as against vampires as well. Either way, but now Reginald's at this issue now where Ashley's onto him because she noticed Todd's neck and how he was acting, and she saw the bite marks, and she's like, "Oh my god, I knew it! Vampires are here." Like I said, I initially thought she was happy about it, but it's like, well, she's happy because now it's like, oh, I get to hunt down vampires. This is awesome. Goal in life. It's like, I mean, she would have killed her co-worker if that had actually worked, and I don't think she would have been too bummed about it. In this case, Reginald. So, and it's like, oh, she is piecing it together, and that's going to be a problem. It's because Sarah's like, yeah, I'm remembering all this stuff. Oh, yeah, and they also made me forget how I feel about Reginald. It's like, well, why would they do that? He's like, yeah, I'm kind of nobody. Why would anyone care about how she felt about me? And they're like, as we know, Maurice wasn't trying to do that. That was just kind of an accidental byproduct. So, but now Reginald's got to worry about Ashley being on his case because she's going to be super vigilant. Because she also said what sparked this is that, yeah, that guy was drained of his blood in the... So you're like, wait, the guy... Because Maurice made it sound like, oh, we don't have to kill people. So I was like, did he kill that guy? It might not have been like a... Well, not unless someone like Angela or whatever like followed behind him and killed the guy. But I'm assuming it's just that was 100% Maurice killed the guy. But he kind of made it sound like we don't have to do that. I mean, at least Reginald doesn't want to kill anyone. It's like, right, feed, brainwash him, and move on. So I don't know what was the extenuating circumstances with that. Or whether there actually were any extenuating circumstances with Maurice killing that guy at the very beginning. Because I was about to say, that seemed like that was like, oh, you're killing that dude. But the way he talked about it later, it's like, oh, yeah, we just let him go. So I was like, oh, I guess you let that guy go. It's like, nope, he's super dead. So, and because Maurice did do that, now it's sparking issues for Reginald now. So, I also, when it comes to Reginald, I do think it is really sweet, the whole him and Sarah being on the phone. It's like, oh my God, 3 hours. I was like, oh my God, I remember that. I haven't been in that situation for a good while, but I was like, oh, it kind of got me a little nostalgic. I remember being on the phone with a significant other for a very long time, and it just specifically, what was it? 5 hours at the time, because using one girlfriend for example, I was on the phone for maybe like, God, was it 4 or 5 hours? Because eventually the phones would automatically disconnect after that time frame. I remember that. I was like, oh man, that actually makes me super nostalgic. I haven't thought about that in a minute. It's like kind of crazy. But I was like, oh, that's super adorable. It's like that typical, you hang up first. No, you hang up first. It's like, oh, it's so gushy and stupid and just like, oh, it's so lovey-dovey gross. But it's like, oh, like I said, it puts a smile on my face and makes me like nostalgic. Either way. Obviously, like I was like at a younger, because I'm assuming like Sarah and I was literally about to say Jacob. Sarah and Reginald are probably like supposed to be like in their mid-20s. I don't know if the actors are playing like their respective ages or not, because like I'm pretty sure like Jacob Batalon's like probably early to mid-20s. I think the actress who plays Sarah, M. Haynes, is like, I think she's like 22 or something like that. I think. Could be mistaken. So, like, yeah, they're both, I don't know if they're, like, playing their respective ages or not. Either way. Putting that aside, Maurice rolled up, and because it's like, right, that sire bond goes deep, bro. Because not only could Reginald feel when Maurice was in trouble, Maurice can feel when Reginald uses the sire, when he glamours, because it's like, right, there's a large amount of energy released when it happens, and he's like, I felt it. So is that how you got Sarah back? It's like, no, I could have done that to undo what you did, but no, she remembered on her own. It's like, right, those two vampires, I used it on them, and he gets pissed at Reginald, because it's like, right, you did it in public. He's like, you're going to have to break it off with Sarah, because apparently she makes you reckless and not think. He's like, oh, you're going to try and stop me? He's like, yeah, I think you forget who actually has the power here, Maurice. Maurice pimp slapped him across the room, and he's like, I'm sorry, Reginald, but the fact of the matter is you're gonna have to learn this lesson now rather than later, because he's like, trust me that you don't want to be in a situation, like, the thing is, when it comes to a human, like, eventually you will hurt them even if you don't want to, and when you do hurt them, you'll never forgive yourself. Never. So I'm assuming that's got to be like part of the beef he has with Angela. It has to be over like a human he fell in love with and just things went sideways. So I'm assuming that's why Angela wants him dead. And maybe that's also, I mean, that's why he wants Angela dead, but maybe that's also like, oh, you were in love with someone else. And maybe it's like, no, you're supposed to, because of our sire bond, which I love. Reginald's like, oh, that kind of makes you my grandmother, doesn't it? And she's like, yeah, it makes us family. Leave it at that. Don't call me a grandma. Like, I think it's kind of the subtle connotation there. Either way, it sounds like, whatever the case may be, it sounds like Maurice's circumstances seem to be a very tragic story, and I can only assume, like I said, Angela played a massive role in that, but we'll probably learn about that later on. But there's also the, like I brought up, Angela now knows about Maurice's ability, so she's bringing in, I guess, a heavy hitter called Nikki. I guess she's kind of like the one you call in to, as they said, like, oh, she brings nothing but death and destruction, but it's like, right, going to kill Reginald before his assessment. That way, also doing that means that Maurice was saved, and that's why Mark, or Mike, I want to say, like, the entire time I was thinking Mark, but I don't remember. It might actually be Mike. Said, like, oh, like, you know, he's glad that Maurice is going to be okay. So it's kind of sad that you kind of backstabbed him and you're basically getting the, I mean, for one, you needed leverage to get from under Angela because you didn't want to spy on Maurice anymore, because maybe you originally did it. Who knows if him and Maurice were together when that deal was struck, or maybe it was beforehand. Either way, he cares too much about Maurice to continue doing that, and you're willing to sell out the person he made that he obviously cares about. So that's going to be upsetting when Maurice finds out the truth about that. So we'll ultimately have to wait and see where all of this ends up taking us going forward into the next episode. But really, that's all I want to talk about. So the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day. and goodbye.